our fun radio. Hey guys, thanks for joining us today. We are at Microsoft Build in a little quiet corner of the conference center. It's been really fun so far, an exciting, packed day. I'm here with Jeremy. I'll let you introduce yourself, and then we'll get into it.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. If you don't know me by now, I'm Jeremy Sinclair, Snapdragon Insider, and you know me from all my excitement about everything running Windows on these Snapdragon devices.
Yeah, so we have the best person to talk about all the cool announcements that we've seen so far. If you don't know me, which hopefully you do, I'm Nick. I'm the AI developer advocate at Qualcomm, and I've been hosting a bunch of these live streams on Discord. Excited to be here again. So yeah, we'll get into it. If there's any questions as we go, just you can place them in the comment section, and we'll get them. We'll answer them towards the end after we get through some of our questions. So should be not too long, 20 minutes. We'll hang out with you guys, and yeah, so ask away if you have any questions. So let's start with a fun one. What is the coolest thing you've seen so far? We've been here, what, a day, 2 days now?
Yes.
What stuck out?
So the coolest thing I saw, and naturally it related to AI.
Shocking.
Yeah. But there was a company in Japan that used a lot of like the Azure OpenAI services to really solve like an issue with deaf people in the community. So it was cool. It was like an emotional piece where there was a woman who couldn't understand what people were saying, and just the use of AI to solve a problem and AI for good. I found that like really awesome.
Yeah, I love that. There were some stickers of that down on the floor. Can you tell me, like, what were they doing? How did they solve the issue? Were they using AI to essentially help her communicate?
Yeah, it was like it was using AI to help communicate. It was more or less like translating a lot of what people were saying so she could actually see the text. So it was just really cool.
Yeah,
it was really for assistive technology. So.
Yeah, beyond just assistant with coding and stuff.
Yeah, that's that type of stuff is really cool. Like,
yeah, it is. I mean, there's so much possibility with AI. People get so caught up in the doom and gloom of what could happen, and it's great that there's actually people putting it to good use to help people and really assist in the real world beyond just, oh, here's our computer, we're going to destroy the planet while we're doing it. So that's really cool. Thanks for sharing that. So I want to follow that up with, what's the most surprising thing you've seen?
The most surprising thing I've seen was Windows subsystem for Linux being open sourced.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
Why is that surprising for you?
Well, me and WSL, we go way back. So I think about back in the Windows Phone days, like the Project Astoria, how you could run Android apps on the Windows Phone, and then seeing that kind of transform into Windows subsystem for Linux when Windows 10 came around, and seeing this whole community of people who want to run Linux applications on Windows and how seamless it is. The fact that they decided to open source the entire thing and get the entire community involved, that's huge.
Yeah, it's a big change from when you think back to Microsoft in the 80s and kind of how they were very closed, and now you have it open. It's been nice, and it's another example, I guess, of like Llama being, a big open source model. Like open source is really having a moment, and I think big companies especially are on board. Even at Qualcomm, we've been able to do a lot more open source stuff we haven't been able to do in the past. So that's awesome. Are you going to contribute anything to it? Do you have any plans for that?
Oh, I already pulled down the source and compiled it.
Nice. Yeah.
Which that was awesome.
Yeah.
And I did it on battery, which was cool.
Great. And that's even better on an XLE.
Yep.
Nice. Love to hear that.
Surface Laptop 7. I got 2 of them with me.
Nice. 2. Yeah.
Oh,
cool. Personal and then an extra one for fun.
Oh yeah. I'm Windows Insider also. So naturally I have one that's on the Canary branch.
Okay.
Which, you can expect for things to be highly unstable.
Bugs, and
that's where I come into play.
Yeah, I know. You have to figure out what it is so you can fix it, right? So people like you that are keeping us stable on the regular releases. Yeah.
Right.
Okay, cool. Anything else that that was cool or surprising you want to talk about? Otherwise, we can hop to go for it, please.
So, One Take Audio.
Okay.
They have
it's cool, isn't it?
Yes, they have a VST that ties into DAWs. And I think like the example they did was on Cubase,
Mhm.
where they had a song and it had separate tracks,
Mhm.
and they isolated a vocal track. They enabled the VST, and the VST basically uses neural networks, trained voices,
Mhm.
voice models, and you can choose between like a male and female voice. And on the fly, as soon as they chose, like you choose
Yeah,
a
I saw
model,
that.
it immediately like you hear the model in that the vocal in that voice, and switching back and forth, changing the pitch, like just blew my mind because it was extremely fast
Yeah.
and showing that it ran on the NPU without any skip of
Yeah.
beat. It just was there.
Isn't it crazy what's possible now? Because you used to. Do you do
Yeah.
music production at all?
I did back in high school and college.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm trying to get back into it, and that's actually one of the things I found really awesome, because
Yeah.
I see these companies are actually finally porting the DAWs to run natively.
Isn't it? Yeah.
Like,
It's really cool.
that's huge, because Mac already has this. They already have this native on theirs, and now it's time. Now it's time for these to run natively on these Snapdragon devices.
Yeah, perfect timing too, because I think we really saw through COVID. I have a little bit of music background myself, and we saw that people were really starting to adopt the digital workstation. I think that for like the 2010s, it was really hard. People were like, well, do I want that? Do I not? And then you have people like, I don't know, Skrillex and other EDM artists that were really going hard into it. And now I think most people, like guitarists especially, they always turn their nose up to it. They're like, oh, digital, I need analog, I need a tube amp. And now you have all of this that's running on device, and it makes sense just to use it because it is so easy, to get all the changes and stuff. And there's a lot of cool stuff from One Take. They have a demo down at our booth. You should check it out.
I need to check them out.
Yeah, they're here. So you can talk to them. Yeah,
we'll do that.
Cool.
Definitely.
So also, I wanted to get a couple quick takes on you, from you, about some of the announcements that we've seen so far. So the first one is Docker. We have Docker support on ARM now. You want to talk a little bit about that? Because I know you're excited.
Oh yeah. So Docker support on ARM. I've been asking about this. We're asking for this for years, since I received my Asus Nova Go, and more so when I started using my Service Pro X, because I've as an insider, I've seen all of the new functionality come in with all the hypervisor and container support, and once I saw those features come in, I'm like, okay, we can run WSL2 on Hyper-V. There was also just some things out of the box that use containers, like where's Docker? I know where they at. And when they came out with that beta preview, probably like last year or so, I when they announced it, I was all in.
Yeah.
But I've been using it so long, I didn't even realize it was still in preview.
I know, right? Yeah.
But that's awesome that it is like finally officially out, because that workflow is important, especially for me as a developer.
Yeah.
And I know for many other developers, that's
100%. Yeah.
I mean,
I feel like that's one of the tools that you need to have to kind of really enable the transition from cloud back to edge, because I go out and I do these workshops and stuff, and developers are like, well, why do I want to go back and develop on the edge? We're just going back to the monolith days. And I'm like, well, no, you can also containerize and run all these microservices, and your local host is your best friend. You can pass everything through that, and it's if you use Docker, it's really self-contained, and it makes development so much easier to an extent. Monoliths can have their own pros, but it's great to see that, and I'm really excited about it too. I just actually downloaded it recently when they announced the full support.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Like I plan on getting the latest version, the latest supported version at least.
Yeah.
So I can continue some of like local development work I've been doing using like a .NET Aspire.
Yeah.
One of my random side projects to update my blog to use to run on .NET Aspire.
Yeah.
So taking full advantage of containerization.
Cool. Have you tried any of the AI features in Docker yet?
I have not.
Okay, me either. Yeah.
I've been looking at it because it makes sense. I'm just trying to kind of really get a grasp around like the whole like local AI landscape, and
yeah, for sure,
where I can tap into.
Yeah.
and how?
Well, there's so many options now. You kind of have to weed your way through, and every tool and their mother has a AI built in. So it's hard to navigate through that. But actually, that's a pretty good segue to the other quick take I wanted to get. I have 3, so we're on the second one. AI Foundry. That's running now locally on the device as well. You want to talk about that, because that's pretty exciting.
Oh yeah, I've been really excited about this one. I've been diving into the formerly known as Windows Copilot runtime with some demo applications I'm trying to get up to speed with. But for example, I have one where I'm trying to do like the image description to basically describe image in alt text form so that I can apply it to when I'm posting things on social media, because that's one thing that usually when I'm at conferences, I spam social media.
Yeah.
So I'm just like image post, image post, image post. And it'd be nice if I had a way that I could just automatically generate.
Yeah, for sure.
Alt text to the best of the ability, and then have all of those ready for quick, fast posts. But it's nice to see that just running locally on device. That's amazing.
You have the power there. It's a huge game changer for privacy and security, right? It keeps other people out. It stops your data from going out to the cloud where it could potentially be leaked. And that seems to be one of the primary concerns among developers these days. Is the more we get into this AI stuff, everyone's like, wow, this is amazing, but it really feeds that AI doom and gloom mindset that we were talking about before, when all of your data is going out to these companies that are data vacuum cleaners essentially. So it's great to see it's on device. And do you know how it relates to AI Toolkit? Because I know that they have that too. Has it merged together, or is it still 2 separate things?
I believe they're 2 separate things now. Because I played with AI Toolkit as well.
Yeah, that's cool too. Check it out if you haven't seen AI Toolkit. There's a lot of cool stuff built in, and you can export your code in one click to C#. So super great.
Yeah, Visual Studio Code. It's awesome just to see all of the stuff just come together.
Yeah.
I know last year, at least when these devices came out, like, okay, cool, we have the NPU, but I'm not really seeing from the developer side yet. But now we're really seeing that come forward. So there's a way to take part in integrating AI on the NPU without much of anything. There's a lot of stuff there.
Yeah.
And I like the AI Toolkit.
Yeah.
Especially for that.
Yeah. To your point about, it's great to see it there. I mean, it's been a long journey, I think, for even just VS Code in general. And I remember when it first came out and everyone was like, do we use this? Do we not? I'm in Atom. I love Atom. And it's such an indispensable tool now for developers. It's almost the IDE standard. So it's great to see how far it's come and that they've made all these integrations.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah. We have a question from the audience. I'm going to do the last hot take, and then we'll come and do the quick hot take, because this one's a hot take. And then we'll come back and do that one and move on to the other questions. So there was an interesting announcement yesterday that NVIDIA and Qualcomm are going to partner. And that's not the companies that you usually see working together, because they tend to compete in the AI space. So you want to talk a little bit about that? And for audience background, they're partnering on data centers. So Qualcomm is going to provide CPU for processing in the data centers. And then, of course, NVIDIA is going to do what they do best with the GPUs. So
yeah, I found that really interesting because, like you said, historically, it's there's NVIDIA.
Yeah, a little bit of competition there.
Yeah. But I feel like this collaboration is a really interesting thing, because getting into the data center and being able to utilize NVIDIA's technology, like the NVLink, I feel like there's opportunities for more AI in the data center. And I think seeing NVIDIA, since they're more or less the go-to when you think of AI.
Fair,
out there, I feel like that's pretty huge.
Yeah, I mean, I think too, it from another perspective, it makes sense, because they're both U.S. companies, and we see the fragmentation of the market these days and the concentration of where all the semiconductors and chips are made. And so it's good to see that we have U.S. companies that are partnering together, and I don't want to say getting over their differences, but at the same time working together to advance this space in general.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how the fruits of what is going to come of this, because that announcement really did come out of nowhere.
I know, right? It was such a surprise. So we'll see. There's more to come on that, of course, and we'll see how it kind of unfolds over time. So thanks for that. Those were the quick takes on some of the big announcements we saw. We did get a question from the audience. So they want to understand in the enterprise space, where has AI started to be useful? And I know on-device AI is particularly useful in the enterprise space, but have you heard or seen any ways that enterprises are starting to leverage it?
Yeah, so if you think about AI in enterprise, depending on what you're doing, think of it as how to make your life and your company more efficient. So AI in terms of like document processing, aggregating data from multiple sources and finding a way to summarize that data, voice transcription. Those are all pretty big and normal examples of AI uses in enterprise. Like, because if you think about it, there's some enterprises that have multiple facets of like what they're doing, especially even in like marketing side. You have the whole data science, like getting all sorts of data from multiple sources and then really summarizing it, sifting through it to find what's the best blah 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 here. How can I transform this to that? So it's huge.
Yeah, I've seen a pretty similar thing. I think there was a little bit of a slow adoption period. Like once ChatGPT came out in, I think, late 22, there was kind of this window where everyone was like, oh, do we approach this? Do we not? We're an enterprise. We need security. That really matters to us. And then, now we're solidly in the space of, okay, well, we need AI. How does it serve us? And so a lot of the internal uses have been around knowledge bases. So there's a lot of work there. And I think I've even started to hear some whispers of people at events talking about multi-layered, especially with agents. So agents are really new. That I wouldn't say they've been deployed to a meaningful extent in enterprises, but we're starting to see like, an overall company. So just imagine Qualcomm, right? You have a Qualcomm AI, and then you have a, marketing AI, like you were talking about, and you have a product management AI, and all of them can essentially talk to each other, and they have this structure that can start to engage in interesting ways. So, and I think eventually we'll see agents come out of that too. So.
Yeah, I'm curious. I'm really interested about tapping into agentic AI, because I just think of it from my own personal standpoint. I would love to find a way to keep up with like my overall workload.
Yeah, and it's hard.
Have something like, what did I do today?
Yeah,
like, give me all of it and summarize it so I can like fill out my timesheet for me.
Yeah,
that's what I want.
And then when you have to go back and write your autobiography, it's much easier because you have all the daily tasks that you've saved. That's actually cool. The thing I wanted is very similar, like a notebook that I can, say, tell me about, I don't know, gravity. That's always the example I use in chatbots. And it would go out, the agent would go and sift through the information and then parse it down and then put it in a notebook that's stored digitally and then compile the information. So then you can have your own private library, but not of just any information, but stuff you've thought about, as opposed to like Wikipedia,
Oh, that's interesting.
If anyone's watching and you want to make that, I'll invest in your startup. Just kidding. So anything else you want to touch on that? Otherwise we can pivot to what you've been doing here, because I think that's pretty exciting.
We pretty much touched on all the cool, awesome stuff. Actually, there is one other thing I found really interesting: the GitHub Copilot VS Code extension.
I use that. I love it.
It's open source now.
It is. Yes. That's really cool. Okay, I'm gonna have to dig into that.
That was another one that came out of nowhere. So I think it's good timing for it.
I agree. Yeah,
it shows that they're caring about open source.
100%.
Yeah.
And I think ultimately it's going to lead towards better development outcomes, both for developers and for, Microsoft as a company owning and building this tool. So that's great. I mean, I didn't even know that. That's awesome.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a big Copilot user. Do you use Copilot?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Love it.
Is that your go-to?
Yeah. I was actually in one of the early private previews of Copilot. So I've seen its evolution.
Yeah. And it has, it's improved over time, but I think, what really stands out to me, and, feel free to disagree or agree or give me your take, but I find it's because it's backed by GitHub, it has a little bit more of a developer sense. So like if
Mhm.
you look at Claude from Anthropic, that's really good too. But it's all the people complain like, oh, it's too wordy, or it doesn't really capture the essence of what I'm doing. But Copilot, I've always found I can get what I need from it as a developer if you prompt it correctly, and that's been nice.
Well, and that's the great thing about GitHub Copilot as a whole. You can switch between multiple models.
Mm-hmm.
Like for instance, I know now the default model is GPT-4.1.
Mm-hmm.
But if I wanted to, I can switch
Yeah.
to Cloud Sonnet 3.7. I can
Yeah.
switch to Google Gemini,
100%.
and I love that ability.
Yeah.
And it just works.
You get more interesting code, right? Because
Yes.
all of them are trained in different ways. And so if you generate code in Claude and then check it in 4.1 from GPT, you'll get an interesting output. And then if you do it in reverse, you'll get something totally different because they just have different ways of thinking about the problem. And the pattern matching is really cool there.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So we got one other question, then we'll turn back to what you've been doing at Build. But it was about Prism. Have you seen anything at Build? Any announcements about that?
I haven't seen any announcements, but I do know that there is a session, I believe, tomorrow with a few people from Microsoft that are going to talk about doing improvement on these ARM native applications.
Yeah.
So that could be one where we may see something with Prism. I'm not 100% sure.
Prism is the translation layer, right, for emulation of x86? Yeah, okay.
And I'd say for now, if anyone wants kind of the best and newest emulation features, you'll have to be on the Canary branch.
Oh.
Because that's where all the newer advanced instructions that they've implemented are there. Otherwise, I mean, it still runs amazing.
I've had people come up to the booth and say they tried an X Elite and they were really surprised because the x86 apps, without even porting to ARM, already run better through Prism than just on an x86 machine. So it's a pretty impressive piece of technology for sure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's improved a lot because I know that there's some applications that do not run well emulate depending on like what it's doing, like Electron based, anything Chromium based emulated. It's always been the fun nightmare.
A struggle, yeah.
Always struggle. Yeah. But it's gotten better.
Okay. I haven't tried Electron actually on this device, but I have an app that I wrote on a different device, so I'll have to bring it over to the ARM and see how it performs because I'm curious to know. Okay. Yeah. Cool. Well, thanks for that. Appreciate you answering that. So yeah, the last thing we're going to talk about today is kind of what you're doing here. So you came, I don't know if anyone can see his badge, but he has an expert badge, which means he's out on the floor for Microsoft representing them. So you want to talk about a little bit about your booth and kind of what you're doing there and yeah.
Yeah. So I'm here as an expert in the Windows area for ARM development on Windows.
Nice. So, shocking.
Yeah, very shocking. Right? So I'm basically here at my booth to help others out with questions related to porting their applications to run natively and kind of detailing a lot of what I've personally gone through over the years. And it's really cool. I've received a lot of awesome questions and people really interested. So I think
are you seeing that tide shift? Like people want to build for ARM? Because I know there was some hesitancy for a while.
Yes, there was. And I honestly think it was last year when these Copilot Plus PCs got debuted.
Yeah.
And I think once people really got their hands on them and saw that it's not a gimmick, like these things have power.
Yeah.
Like they went all in.
They went all in.
Like, and even for me personally, I was on my airplane flight over here. So my flight was like 4.5 hours. I was debugging in Visual Studio on my Surface Laptop 7. I had it at maybe like 65% battery. And by the time I was done, I still had above 20%.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Like that was great.
That's still the thing that gets me. You have all this power through the NPU, but then the battery doesn't drain from it, and then you can't get that really anywhere else. So it's really cool. And I have a story like that too. I was in India and I had a conference and I had to go 8 hours on the floor, and nobody I didn't have power essentially at the booth, and I had showed up to my hotel the last night, and none of my plugs worked, and so I had to go, and I was at 60% like you, and I managed 8 hours running NPU workloads, and I was at 20% at the end of the day. So,
Wow.
you know, it's definitely not something to scoff at. You know, if you haven't tried one, definitely try it out. And you know, you heard it here first from Jeremy.
Yeah, that's actually impressive.
I was so impressed. I mean, that made me a true believer. You know, prior to that, I've dabbled on all the types of OSs and systems, and you know, Mac, Windows, Linux, and nothing has really lasted that long with those like AI chat models, especially running locally on device. You know, because you get on device, you get the battery, so you can do really cool things. And yeah,
that's great.
Yeah, cool. Oh, we got one. We have two other things actually. So Devin said that the Prism build in Canary is very good. So that's good to hear. We have some other confirmation. I mean, Jeremy was saying as much already, but that's great.
I figured it was Devin asking that question.
Yeah. And then Maria was posting about today we have a developer networking event. So if you're at Build and you're watching this, if it's posted on YouTube or the Discord channel, tonight at the Mopop, we're hosting essentially a little networking party. So come by at 7 to 10. We'll have some demos there with Snapdragon and some food and drinks, and you'll get to see us in person. Are you coming to that?
Oh, absolutely.
Nice. Awesome. Great to have you there. One Take's going to be there too. So you can check out they're bringing guitars and a drum kit and stuff, and they're going to have all the on-device processing, so you can go check it out.
All right.
So that's it from us with this quick little update. We managed almost 25 minutes of silence, which was pretty good with only one interruption. So lucky us, we found a good spot. And any last takes you want to leave everyone with?
I just want to say, if you're at Microsoft Build, come find me.
Yeah.
Otherwise, keep developing and develop.
Yeah.
Have fun.
On ARM.
Yes. That's my passion. I want all these applications running natively because at the end of the day, I want to think of it as just using Windows.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to think about architecture. It should just work.
Run on Windows, no matter what. That's a great place to leave it. So yeah, come check out the Qualcomm booth. Go find Jeremy on the floor. And if you have any questions after this, you can find us on the Discord. You can just add us and we'll see your messages. So thanks a lot for joining in. If you joined live, and if you're watching to find out some more of the announcements, thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.
All right.
Bye, guys.
See ya.